Health and Fitness with David Hollywood.
With DS Sports, the teamwear specialists. Lightning fast delivery and unbeatable service at dssports.ie.
Hello, and thanks for joining me. What have we got coming up on Health and Fitness this evening? Well, let's take a look. Offaly and Lusmagh man Caolan Kelly is hiking from the Eiffel Tower to the Colosseum in Rome to raise funds for young people's mental health. You're going to meet him very shortly. On Pobal's latest research underlines health inequalities based on where we live. Their research and policy manager, Alana, breaks down the data for us this evening. Nearly 1/3 of women have never had a heart health check. You're going to hear from Janis Morrisey of the Irish Heart Foundation about the Her Heart Matters campaign. And the owner of Si Amenity Park in Moate is on with us to tell us all about their new sauna and ice bath offering. I want to introduce you to an Offaly man who is undertaking a pretty epic journey. I'm very glad to say we're going to be crossing over to Europe momentarily to chat to Caolan Kelly. He's from Lusmagh and he's hiking from the Eiffel Tower in Paris to the Colosseum in Rome. It's just the 1,500 kilometres. He set off on his challenge on the 3rd of August and he is campaigning for Jigsaw and young people's mental health. So we'll tell you how you can support him, but I think it's high time we introduced him. Caolan, thanks very much for joining us on Health and Fitness this evening. My first question is, where are you? What's around you right now?
Yes. So first of all, thanks for having me, David. Absolute pleasure. I am about 30 kilometres outside Pisa in Italy. So I'm very much on the home stretch at this stage. Okay, so
you've travelled literally over 1,000 kilometres since you set off on your journey.
1,300. 1,300 in total so far.
It's amazing. The cliche is obviously that you learn a lot about yourself when you feck off and go on these journeys. This especially, I imagine, just personally, starting with yourself, what's it been like to go through, and has it surprised you along the way?
Yeah, it's been an emotional roller coaster, to be honest with you, David. It's been the highs of the highs and the lows of the lows. But I'm a very firm believer that you can't grow when you are constantly in your comfort zone. So this was something that was obviously going to take me massively out of my comfort zone. I think solo traveling in general is a great way or a great path to self-discovery. I think this really kind of accelerated that process even more. So yeah, I've learned loads about myself. I think it's going to really benefit me in the long term.
I'll get you to talk us through some of the experiences you've had along the way, but just on that point of journeying with yourself, had you ever done anything like this before?
I moved to Spain on my own at the start of last November, and that was a big eye-opener into the kind of the solo traveling in general. But this has been a totally different experience altogether. I think just the fact you're so isolated at times, trekking for 30 kilometers a day, stuck with your own thoughts, camping, you name it. It's been one hell of a ride.
Yeah, I can imagine so. It's a really uncommon experience in the modern world to have yourself plugged out from other people like that, and to really live in sort of the reality, the textile reality of this planet. Let's start at the start, I suppose. Where did this idea come about and why are you doing it?
Yeah, so I guess it all kind of started, David. I was unhappy, very unhappy with the conventional path I followed. I went to college, I got my textbook degree. I followed the conventional path, and it just never really sat right with me. It never really fulfilled me. Fair enough, biology was my favorite subject in school, but it didn't light me up. It was more the other way around, dimming me down in terms of fulfillment, in terms of enjoyment. And I just could never see myself working a kind of 9 to 5 for the next 40 years. So I ended up quitting my job after 6 years of studying last September, and I just ventured into the unknown. I tried to do a bit of digital marketing online, and even though that didn't really work out, it led me to the realization that I enjoy kind of videography. I enjoy making content. So I started putting myself out there online. I gave up the beer, gave up the drink at the start of the year. That was another kind of catalyst to all this. And then I knew I wanted to do something big. I thought it'd be a great idea to give back and to such a great cause, such a great charity like Jigsaw. Mental health is something I think a lot of people are struggling with at the moment, and it's something I really struggled with growing up too. So now that I'm out kind of the other side of that, I'm trying to give back and make an impact.
Yeah, and you can support Caolan on iDonate. Caolan, let's just give the details out immediately if anyone does want to support Jigsaw through what you're doing.
Yeah, perfect. So you can look up iDonate on Google with my name, Caolan, that's Caolan Kelly. I'm documenting the entire journey on my social media. So my Instagram my Instagram username is Kelly_Caolan. It's Kelly_Caolan again. And yeah, I'd absolutely love if you hit a follow, if you join me for the last leg of the journey, and any donation at all would be massively appreciated for a great cause.
Yeah, exactly. And it's one of those things that whatever you can afford is just the right amount for support. Let's look at this itinerary that you built for yourself. How did you choose the Eiffel Tower in Paris as your destination? How did you choose the Colosseum in Rome as or the start of your journey, and Rome being your destination? And what did you do to figure out the journey between the 2 points?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, David, because I knew I wanted to do a big challenge, but I wasn't really sure where to start. Like a lot of things in life, you have a kind of a smell of an idea, but often that idea develops into something completely different. So I was thinking at the start, maybe to document a Camino, but then I kind of came to the conclusion that, a Camino, a lot of people, it's kind of a bit more generic. A lot of people tend to do that. And then I kind of got a bit more creative with it. I was thinking to tie in the social media with it, what would capture more attention? So that brought me to landmarks in Europe. And I thought the two kind of most well-known being the Eiffel Tower and the Colosseum. So that's where that idea came out of. Okay,
and in terms of the 1,500 kilometres between the 2 points, how did you figure out what to do about that?
Yeah, it was just a lot of sitting down, mapping it out, coming up with the route. Actually, from doing a bit of research, I came to the conclusion or the realization that there's actually a pilgrimage from Canterbury all the way to Rome called the Via Francigena. And I knew I could still follow this path, but I could start in Paris, start at the Eiffel Tower, get onto the path, and then follow the path the whole way to Rome. Okay. So that actually took a lot of the guesswork out of it for me. The fact that this pilgrimage has been going on for so long.
And on a day-to-day basis then, talk me through what your typical day has been like over the course of this absolutely gargantuan hike.
Yeah, I mean, every day is a learning day. Every day is a new experience, a new adventure. You never know what's waiting for you around the corner, who you're going to meet, what's going to happen. I try and get up relatively early, and I get all my gear packed up into the bag, and I try and get about 6 kilometers under the belt before having the breakfast. I normally try to go to supermarkets to keep it cheap. We're talking baguettes, ham and cheese baguettes, and yeah, a pint of milk or something. That's what I'm having most days, and maybe every so often then I have a meal out or whatever. But it's the bare minimum now, and yeah, camping probably about 75% of the time, between wild camping and then campsites, and then when I get to the big cities along the way, I can stay in hostels when I can.
It's fascinating. The first thing that occurred to me, and it's quite random, so bear with me, is there's morning people, and then there's people who aren't morning people, and I find if you're bad in the morning, it's the company of someone else that could actually trigger you. But you're on your own. So, have you found yourself waking up and staying in a good mood, or what's that self-talk been like over the course of the hike?
Yeah, I'm definitely not a morning person. I struggle to get up early. So I definitely know where you're coming from. But I think it's refreshing. I know I'm putting all this on social media, but I'm a massive believer in not going near my phone for as long as I can. So in the morning, I try to not touch my phone for 2 hours, or at least not go on social media for 2 or 3 hours. So that's a big help. And then the fact you're in nature, you hear the birds, there's normally a river not too far around, mountains in the background. Yeah, it's an amazing experience, and it's been amazing.
The camping side of things, so obviously there's campsites and they have their own structures and kind of security about them, and if you're staying in hostels through cities, a lot of us will know from experience that can be a mixed bag, of course, but again, there is a certain amount of order around it. Wild camping, tell us about how that's been and how you approached it and what you've experienced.
Yeah, the wild camping, it's not like Ireland at times. At times you're kind of stuck between two towns, or maybe you're actually in a town and it's a small town, it's remote. It could be in the French countryside or the Swiss countryside. So you could be talking 100 quid for an Airbnb or a booking.com for a room. So the fact that my budget isn't it's tight enough for the duration, I have to be kind of reasonable enough with it. That's where the camping came in. So you kind of don't really have a choice, David. You kind of have to just have your wits about you, try and find a park or try and find a kind of remote area away from people. But it's funny, when I was in France, I'd be away from people, but next thing, a few times I had a few run-ins with wild boars.
Oh my God.
so that was an experience too, yeah.
And when you say you had a run-in with a wild boar, that doesn't necessarily sound like a good thing. What happened? Yeah,
two occasions it happened, or I kind of came in close contact with them. The first, I was camping between a wheat field and the edge of the forest, and I could just hear them I could hear them looking for food or whatever throughout the night. So that wasn't too bad the first time. The second time, they were actually very, very close to me, only for there was a fence 3 meters away from me. They actually woke me up at 2 o'clock in the morning. There was a whole gang of them, and it was pretty frightening, to say the least.
Look, I suppose these are the memories that you'll cherish as long as you come out the other end of it, not having to interact violently with a wild boar at all. So I'm glad you managed to swerve that particular issue. What's the challenge been like physically? Because I did a walk and holiday in Wales recently, and I'm laughing at myself now considering that my legs got tired after 3 or 4 days and this, that and the other. This is a monster in comparison. So did you do any sort of preparation beforehand? Were you surprised at the physical exertion? What kind of kilometres are you doing over the course of a day and that type of thing?
Yeah, I didn't do a whole lot of preparation in terms of physical training, but to be honest, I don't think it would have helped me overly either. I think it's one of those things you just kind of the only way is through, and it is very physical. The bag gets very heavy. It's 14 kilos in total, but after 10, 15 kilometers, that really weighs you down. So it's pretty exhausting at the best of times. But yeah, I mean, you just have to kind of stick with it. And I've noticed at any time I get really low mood, I kind of descend into a rut. It doesn't last forever, not last forever. I always come out the other side and I feel like after kind of leveling up, and I feel kind of more resilient and built more character along the way.
I was just going to ask, but you've answered my question there. The resilience, that must be something you discover, and I presume you discovered that you actually always had it. It's had space and time to express itself in this particular situation.
Yeah, well, I think, to be honest, I think everyone has it. It's just whether you choose to kind of hone in on it or not. Um, Obviously, putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, in challenging situations, the more you can do that, the more you can kind of develop that skill of resilience. But like anything, I think it's a skill, and it's all about putting in the reps. The more reps you put in, the more resilient you'll become. So, yeah, I guess it's like anything.
Yeah, I'd say, speaking of reps, your bag carrying muscles must be absolutely bulging at this point.
Yeah, it's gas because I definitely down a good bit of weight over the last 8 weeks, but yeah, I'm using different muscles than I'm used to be, but yeah, all part of the experience, David.
Yeah,
Character building stuff.
2 months on the road. You're nearly at the end. What do you think it's going to be like when something like the Colosseum comes into the view on your horizon?
Oh, it's going to be phenomenal. Like, I don't know, it's hard to put into words. I'm really excited even to meet my two brothers. They're flying over next Saturday, so I'm aiming to be there
Oh, fantastic.
on time for that. So, yeah, I think it's going to be phenomenal, and I can't wait.
Yeah, look, it's obviously been earned, to say the least. What are you? We've mentioned the kind of sense of resilience that you're taking away from the experience. What else do you think you'll take away from this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think as I mentioned before, the whole solo traveling, self discovery, like what do you want out of this life? Trying to kind of figure out who you are as a person. I think solo traveling is great for that. You kind of realize what exactly are your interests. Like, are you just going along with the crowd when you're going on holidays with other people, or when you're hanging out with other people? You kind of really delve deep into what you actually like, who you are, and kind of what you want to get out of this life. And it's been it's been an amazing experience for me, and I'm sure I'll try some other different challenges in the future, but maybe not for another while. This will keep me going.
You can, yeah, I think it's fair enough to put your feet up for a little bit after this. You've been listening to Caolan Kelly from Lusmagh and Offaly. Caolan, you're a testament to your community. You've raised thousands of euro for Jigsaw and young people's mental health. And if anyone wants to help Caolan in raising more funds, idonate.ie, Caolan Kelly, Caolan Kelly, and his Instagram is at Kelly__Caolan, and you can see his updates on what has been an incredible journey. Big congratulations, Caolan. Thanks for joining us on Health and Fitness, and we look forward to seeing a few snaps go up at the Colosseum in a couple of weeks.
Take care, David. Thanks a million for having me.
No worries at all. Thanks again. Those living in poorer areas in Ireland are more likely to report poor health. We're about to learn why on Health and Fitness next.
Health and Fitness
with DS Sports, the teamwear specialists. Experience lightning fast delivery and unbeatable service for all your sporting needs at DS Sports, with gear ready in as little as 5 days. Contact 085 87 15 311 or info@dssports.ie.
Midlands 103.
People living in areas of deprivation across Ireland are significantly more likely to report poor health or disability. This is the central finding of a new report from Pobal, who work for the state in developing societies and increasing inclusion. Here's some headline statistics from the report. People living in the most disadvantaged areas are 4.5 times more likely to report not having good health than those in the most affluent areas. People living in the most disadvantaged areas in Ireland are twice as likely to report having a disability compared to those in affluent areas, and children growing up in extremely disadvantaged areas have reported disability rates which are only observed among people nearing retirement age in affluent areas. That's approximately 7%. Alana Ryan is Pobal's Research and Policy Manager. She co-authored this report. Alana, thanks very much for joining us on Health and Fitness this evening.
Thanks very much for having me, David.
Alana, 1 in 5 people living in extremely disadvantaged areas are reporting not having good health. In a country with the resources that Ireland has, it's hard to understand how this can happen. In your work, from what you've seen, is this a problem that's getting better or worse?
So Pobal's new research examined the relationship between geographic disadvantage and health inequalities across Ireland, and the findings were very stark. As you say, the greater the level of deprivation of an area, the higher the health needs. People in the most disadvantaged areas are 4.5 times more likely to report not having good health and twice as likely to have a disability than those in affluent neighbourhoods. So these findings are very stark, but they are consistent with what we see in the literature from Ireland and internationally around that relationship between deprivation and health inequalities. So I wasn't surprised by these findings, but I think the magnitude of that relationship between deprivation, health and disability is one which is very stark and which requires significant attention and focus.
On the attention and focus, obviously, as you've laid out there, it does need to be significant to bridge that gap, that big stark contrast between affluent areas and disadvantaged areas. How should the state, on Pobal's perspective, go about resolving these issues?
So there's a number of really positive initiatives underway already. So the government is currently updating the National Disability Strategy, and it's also established a cabinet level disability committee. And I think that these developments are very positive, and this research and the evidence and data that we can provide will certainly strengthen and support that work to create better public services around health and disability. There are very good examples of targeted work within disadvantaged communities. For example, the Sauna Healthy Communities programme is operational in 19 disadvantaged areas nationwide. It provides wraparound services and supports in those areas, so things like social prescribing, kind of physical activities, health promotion, food and nutrition. That's all part of the mix in the Sauna Healthy Communities model. And so that's a model which we could expand and embed further into other areas, given this data shows that there's a clear need in those most disadvantaged communities for more targeted and place-based health and social care supports.
One of the other recommendations I was reading is that you need person-centred disability services and supports. What's that in terms of a definition, a person-centred disability service?
So person-centred is the approach where you work with the person and you take their views and needs as paramount within the design of services and in the delivery of services and supports. So it's really being led by the person who has a disability and understanding their needs and what their requirements are.
Okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. One interesting aside that I saw in the report was that men report better health up to the age of 30, but it passes over to women after that, which was a curiosity. But generally, health inequality is at play when it comes to gender. What's in the report that the state could learn from in that respect?
So the report is based on a correlation analysis where we looked at the information from the census forms, from April 2022, and mapped that against the Pobal HP Deprivation Index, which is Ireland's primary social gradient tool for identifying areas of concentrated disadvantage. And those are areas which are characterised by higher unemployment rates, by higher proportions of low-skilled work, by more lone parent families, and these kinds of metrics. So it is a correlation analysis. So we can't say what is the causal factor here or what the driver is, but we can speculate based on the findings. And so, what did come through was that gender is an important consideration and that we do need to think about how differences in health outcomes are between men and women. And what the report saw was that on average, women are reporting worse health. And when it comes to disability, women report higher rates of disability over 65. Now, that could be because there are more women living longer than men. There's a higher life expectancy amongst women. So it might simply be the case that there's just more women filling out the census forms who are over 65. But similarly, we do know that there's significant social inequities between men and women in Ireland, that women are more likely to be in old age poverty, that they don't have adequate pension cover, that there's higher rates of gender-based violence. And so it is possible that what we're seeing is a cumulative impact of those concerns and the toll that it's taking on our health. But because it's a correlation analysis, we can't say with certainty what the driver is.
One of the other inequalities that the report highlighted a concern over is infrastructure and green space availability in deprived areas. That investment in these kinds of areas is part of the picture in terms of improving the health outlook for people in deprived areas.
Absolutely. I mean, our health is impacted by a wide range of factors. And I think, it's well established that the building blocks for good health are housing, our neighbourhood amenities, our public transport, our opportunities for, interaction and social engagement. So it's really important that we think about health in that more holistic way and consider how can we foster good health at a neighbourhood level by thinking about things like, public infrastructure and services and supports in the locality. And it's particularly important in those deprived areas to consider this because based on the data, we know that 1 in 3 people in those very deprived areas is reporting a disability. So, universal design and accessibility is paramount in those areas because you have a higher proportion of people who do have disabilities and additional needs.
Yeah, well, look, hopefully those who have the levers of investment in the state bodies and departments can use this report because ultimately ignorance can't be claimed when it comes to maybe knowing what the situation on the ground is, thanks to the type of work that you're doing. Just from a personal perspective, Alana, to be involved in co-authoring a report like this, what kind of personal and professional satisfaction do you get from doing work that is important and ultimately could meaningfully help people down the line?
Absolutely. It was a real privilege to work on this report with my colleague, Dr. Patrick Collins, who did the data analysis. And I think, this is the kind of data and evidence which can really support and inform policy making. It can, give a direction towards our focus and where we go in terms of our supports and services. So it's been great to be involved in this work, and I think it does have the potential to be a really useful resource to our colleagues in government.
That's great stuff. You're chatting to us now, and I presume other people about the report as upon its release and that type of thing. What follows for you after this? Do you move on to another project, something along the same lines?
So Pobal released our new research strategy in May of this year, which kind of outlines our research agenda and where we would like to go. And as a social inclusion and equality agency, we are really committed to providing robust national data which can support and inform policy and which has a particular focus on disadvantaged and deprived communities who are experiencing structural inequalities. So, our research is always going to be grounded and responsive to those issues, and hopefully can shed light and insight into the relationships there and the measures which can tackle these kinds of disadvantage.
Pobal's Research and Policy Manager Alana Ryan, thanks very much for joining us on the programme this evening.
Thanks for having me.
When's the last time you checked your heart health? The Irish Heart Foundation joins us on the programme next.
Health and fitness
with DS Sports, the teamwear specialists. Experience lightning fast delivery and unbeatable service for all your sporting needs at DS Sports, with gear ready in as little as 5 days. Contact 085 87 15 311 or info@dssports.ie.
Midlands 103.
I've got a question for you for our next segment on the programme. How healthy is your heart? It's a question that we simply don't ask ourselves enough. And if you're listening to us this evening and you're a woman, it may well be a question that you've not asked yourself enough either. We are about to feature the Her Heart Matters campaign. I'm very glad to say that from the Irish Heart Foundation, the Director of Health Promotion, Janis Morrisey, joins us on the programme. Janis, this is a really interesting campaign with some really interesting a bit of research and stats that you guys have brought up into it, and we'll cover those shortly. But tell us what's behind the Her Heart Matters campaign.
Thank you. So the Irish Heart Foundation have launched the Her Heart Matters campaign because too many women in Ireland don't realise their risk of heart disease and stroke. So in fact, in Ireland, 1 in 4 women will die from heart disease and stroke. And that's almost 6 times more likely to die from that than from breast cancer. So as women, we're very breast aware, and that's fantastic. But our risk of heart disease and stroke has got lost along the way. So the Irish Heart Foundation has launched this campaign to really shine a spotlight on how women are at risk of heart disease and stroke, and to know the symptoms and to talk to your doctor about your heart health.
Considering the obviously troubling statistics about how many people will suffer in terms of heart health in the future, the fact that 28% have never had a heart health check, if you were able to bring that number way down, then the statistics in terms of those who might die from heart-related issues, like there's a big opportunity to improve the situation in this country.
Yes, there is. And we know that 80% of premature heart disease and stroke is preventable through lifestyle changes. So there's a big opportunity to reduce the chances of having a heart attack or a stroke through lifestyle change. But of course, first of all, you need to know that you're at risk. And that's where speaking to your doctor comes in. So, even for things like high blood pressure or high cholesterol, they're easily managed once they're diagnosed. So the key is really to understand what your own risk, what your family history might be, how your diet is, how active you are, do you smoke? All of those factors combine to affect your risk of heart disease and stroke together. So, it's probably not surprising in a way the finding of 28% having not had a heart health check, because, when we think about women's health, we tend to think about pregnancy or menopause or about, breast health, etc. So, that's again why the Her Heart Matters campaign has been launched.
And speaking from the perspective, you touched on a couple of the ways to actually improve your heart health. Talk us through the specifics there in terms of obviously exercise, nutrition, the likes of not drinking too much or making sure you don't smoke. These are obviously all important factors.
Yes, they are. And the thing is, most of us are fairly familiar with those messages. So it's not news that we all need to move more or not smoke. And when we were developing this campaign, we did some research with women so we could kind of hit the mark around what was actually helpful information. And what women said to us was that we know what we should be doing. The challenge is to do it and to keep doing it and to sustain those healthy habits. And that's why, as part of the campaign, we developed a self-care and well-being journal, so that it helps women to take a moment to take stock of their own heart health. Where am I at? And what changes would I like to make in my lifestyle? And what goals can I set? What barriers can I see? And how can I, get around those barriers in advance? So it's a really around kind of practically helping to identify, reasonable, sustainable, healthy habits and how to integrate them into your daily life. So I should say that's available for free on our website, irishheart.ie.
Okay, it's very interesting. So the modern contemporary life that women are leading, it's not affording them the opportunity to take action on, as you say, a lot of the issues and the solutions that they know themselves already. The knowledge is there. It's about finding space in our lives to make sure we can improve our health.
Yeah, that's really what women were saying to us, is that it's just they're it's that, I suppose it's that whole idea of kind of putting your own mask on first. We're all familiar with that from flying, safety instructions. So it's the whole idea of women kind of looking after themselves. Women, tend to have many caregiving roles, be that for children or relatives or parents or in the community, and it's about kind of a bit of self-care, taking time out as well, which is really difficult to do, and that's why the Wellbeing Journal focuses on small sustainable changes. This is not about boiling an ocean all in one go. This is, small changes that are sustained over time can have a really big positive difference on your heart health. So this is about what's realistic to do for you right now.
Obviously, we should all be cognizant and aware of our own heart health, but what would what kind of demographic of women should really consider checking in on their heart health, and maybe following on from that, you might be able to talk us through some common symptoms that might indicate someone has got an issue with their heart.
Yeah, so I mean, heart health is relevant for everybody from cradle to grave. But when a woman goes through menopause, she does lose some protection from the hormones, particularly from estrogen. So up until the time of menopause, women actually are protected a lot from heart disease and stroke. However, during menopause, then the levels of this hormone estrogen naturally drop, and therefore women lose that natural protection. So that can lead to high blood pressure and high cholesterol, for example. And that's why, at that particular point in time, it's really useful to have an appointment with your GP to understand what your risk of heart disease and stroke is like at that time, and to put those kind of preventative protection measures in place to prevent heart attack or stroke occurring down the road. And in terms of the symptoms side, so in the campaign, we're particularly focusing on heart attack symptoms in women. So if I ask you to picture somebody having a heart attack, you'll probably think of a middle-aged man clutching his chest dramatically. We're kind of familiar with that from Hollywood and soap operas, etc. But as I said at the start, 1 in 4 women will die from heart disease and stroke, the same as men. So women can have those kind of common heart attack symptoms that we'd be familiar with, like chest pain that can spread to the neck, jaw, shoulder or left arm, difficulty breathing, feeling dizzy, nausea, vomiting or sweating. Then they're kind of your typical symptoms. However, there are less common symptoms of heart attack, such as back pain, stomach pain, or extreme fatigue. And the thing is that there are gender differences there. So women are much more likely to get those less common symptoms and therefore delay seeking treatment, not realise it's an emergency situation where, you need to be calling 112 or 999 immediately and to get the timely treatment. So because women can have these kind of variable symptoms, it can lead to a delay. So what we're saying is, if you think there's any chance that it might be a heart attack, call the emergency services and get the treatment that you need, to trust your own body. And, we've had patient case studies where, women don't want to cause a fuss and, I'll be grand, that great Irish phrase, and not wanting to cause trouble. But, there's a risk of lasting effects from a heart attack or stroke. So the sooner you get treatment, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. Just anecdotally, Janis, from your own perspective, what kind of trajectory are we on with our heart health in this country? Is progress being made, or do we still have a serious mountain to climb?
So we've made great strides over the last number of decades in terms of treatment and control of heart disease and stroke, so that the rates have come down, and that's from a mix of different factors. It's better diagnosis, it's better treatments, but it's also things like, for example, the workplace smoking ban that celebrated the 20th anniversary this year. That's had a huge benefit on the cardiovascular health of the nation as well. However, we're at risk of undoing some of those gains now because of things like diabetes and overweight and obesity are coming up now, and they all have a knock-on effect on our risk of heart disease and stroke. So there's much work to be done yet. And, as I said, 80% of premature heart disease and stroke, so premature means under the age of 65, 80% is preventable. So there's a lot to be done to support people to lead healthy lives in terms of having, access to affordable, healthy food, having, safe places to be active, etc. as well. So that's a lot of our advocacy work, is lobbying government for policies to create that environment that we live in that helps us all to be healthy.
Yeah, it's certainly plenty of work will always be there to be done in this regard. The Her Heart Matters campaign, anybody listening wants to find out more information, what do they do?
So you can visit our website, irishheart.ie, and sign up for the campaign there. And I should say we're also hosting a webinar on Tuesday, the 1st of October, that people can sign up for free. And that is a range of experts with a conversation around kind of women's experiences of how to prevent and deal with heart disease. So you can sign up for free, again, on our website, irishheart.ie.
Director of Health Promotion with the Irish Heart Foundation, Janis Morrisey, thanks for taking our call.
Thank you.
Hot and cold therapy is coming to a very popular park in Westmeath. You'll find out where next.
Health and fitness
with DS Sports, the teamwear specialists. Experience lightning fast delivery and unbeatable service for all your sporting needs at DS Sports, with gear ready in as little as 5 days. Contact 085 87 15 311 or info@dssports.ie.
Midlands 103.
Welcome back to the programme. The last time we featured Si Amenity Park in Moate, they had just said goodbye to the pride of place judges, and that's definitely what came through when talking to everyone associated with the park. That pride, well, the latest development in Si sees the arrival of saunas and ice baths. Mark Cornally is the park's owner. He joins us this evening to tell us all about the new additions.
We're incredibly excited, David, to be opening it to the public. It's going to be open Saturday. One of the main reasons we're opening this, David, is, for mind, body and spirit. We know of today, the world we're living in is fast paced. Everything's fast life. So, we're giving people an opportunity to go somewhere of relaxation. Not only does the sauna and the ice baths take care of the body, but it also takes care of the mind. So we're really opening that on the back of that in a beautiful park. Like Si already has a massive reputation in the Midlands. It's such a well-kept park, run by Karen and all the other people that work there. So we are really excited about getting it going in there, So it's looking good so far, David.
Let's talk briefly about the actual health benefits that you can get from saunas and ice baths. Obviously, the saunas can be good for detox and improving in circulation. And then when you contrast that with the ice baths, it's really good for circulation and reducing inflammation. Are you expecting there to be a big appetite for these kind of services in the park? You're probably expecting the public to engage with this with enthusiasm.
Yeah, David, we really are. I'm a firm believer, of taking care of the body today and also the mind. I mean, listen, I've had my own struggles through life with certain things, mental struggles, physical struggles, and as a result of incorporating this healthier way of living today, my life has completely changed. So, the sauna and ice baths, it is all about rejuvenation of the body and the mind. It definitely improves recovery, and it, as you say, improves the circulation, enhancing just overall well-being, David. It's the park that this place is in. When we go in there, and we've had a lot of people come in already, they've said about the feeling they get when they go in there. So when you incorporate to heat and ice, a lot of people are put off about 80 degrees heat and then jumping into ice. But in my own experience of doing it, the after effects of the endorphins that get released when you jump into the ice and the heat, it is absolutely unbelievable, And we're in such a fast-paced life today, we're plugging into many different things to give us some feeling of well-being. But this is natural, and it's in a natural setting. So the whole thing based upon how it works, where it is, that is the whole drive behind it, and we have kept everything within the community of Moate, you know, the hiring of the people, all the people that are involved with the park and setting up. So we've kept all that incorporated in there as well, because we really wanted to have the community spirit drive behind this, you know.
Yeah, it's certainly become a really well-known fixture within the community. Actually, one of my colleagues here, Shannon Fogarty, she lives in Moate, and she was singing the praises of the park just before I came onto this call to have a chat with you, Mark. In terms of yourself, as I mentioned at the top of our chat, I covered the park when the judges for the Pride of Place Awards were on the premises checking out what Doonashee's all about. What about the question of pride from your own perspective as the park owner and as someone who's bringing all of these features along to the park? What kind of pride do you extract out of what you guys have managed to set up there in Moate?
I mean, listen, you know, for this is not just about me, yeah. So there's a lot of people behind this. This was something, yes, that came from me and another very good friend of mine, Mark Conlon, who is a local. Me and Mark have done the Sauna and Ice Baths together. The sense of well-being when you do this, for anybody that has already experienced it, is not only the heat and the ice, it's the people you meet. You're meeting people in a completely relaxed environment. And, you know, the pride we have as a result of opening this, we know that people that will come and just try it out. We know that the satisfaction that they will get out of it. You know, we have a huge sense of satisfaction and pride, especially of where we're putting it, David. You know, we really believe in the heart of the Midlands. This is something that is really going to work. The community spirit within the Moate area and the surrounding area has been just unbelievable. And we're so happy to be involved with that, you know. So, you know, there's a lot of pride behind it, David. Yeah, definitely.
That's another Health and Fitness for another week. Thanks for joining me. Joe Cooney's up next with Country Roads, and I will talk to you soon.